Uh-huh.
record, and then in the midst of me doing it, I'll press record, and then
The person would walk into a room and my body would tense up. My jaws would be tight. I could just, as he was speaking, I could feel those feelings that he felt. And also, as he was speaking, the Lord convicted me that I needed to forgive the person because we're forgiven. And in that moment, when I say I wept deeply, like I bawled, like I had just lost someone important in my life. It wasn't that I lost someone. It was that I gained a burden was lifted off of me. But I knew that I was holding unforgiveness in my heart for years, for decades actually. And I never even addressed it. I never thought twice about it because honestly, as I would say, I was holding that unforgiveness, I realized after, say, a few months of me, God delivering me from unforgiveness, because after that deep cry, I realized that unforgiveness had turned to bitterness. It had turned to anger. And not only had I not forgiven the person prior to that day, is that I realized that I was holding on to unforgiveness is because, and I reacted that way because unforgiveness shows up when people say they have forgiven, but they really haven't. You can tell because unforgiveness controls how you show up. It controls your actions, how you behave around that person. So you can say you've forgiven, but you really haven't until you are in the room with that person and how you respond when they enter the room. And exactly as he said, when they entered the room, my entire body was like I was using unforgiveness as a weapon because I wanted that person to feel my hurt, my anger. I weaponized unforgiveness in hoping that they would see it, in hoping that maybe they would apologize. But when you're a Christian, God it doesn't require an apology for you to forgive someone. We forgive as Christians because God forgave us. God died on the cross for our sins. He forgave us without us ever apologizing. He died on the cross without us ever even repenting. He gave his life. And how can I hold on to unforgiveness and claim myself to be a Christian? Yeah, that's just something, it wasn't right. And I never thought about it until that day because God spoke to me through the message that was being preached that day. And prior to that, I didn't think twice about it. I was mad and I wanted to stay mad. When we hold on to unforgiveness, we think we are holding the person hostage when in actuality, we're holding ourselves hostage. We're allowing this person and their actions to control us, to dictate how we feel, to dictate how we show up when when they come around. And no one in your life should ever have that much control over you. And it does not matter what they have done, what act that they have committed against you, because we are called to forgiveness, and forgiveness is an act of obedience. It's not an act of, oh, I don't think they deserve to be forgiven. They don't deserve forgiveness. Christ didn't deserve to die because he was sinless, yet he died anyway for us sinners. And when we hold on to, and what I realized after processing unforgiveness is that honestly, we're not trusting God when we feel like our unforgiveness, when we weaponize our unforgiveness, and we don't trust God in believing that he will avenge whatever the act was, whatever that person did to us or people did to us, the hurt that they caused us, that God will avenge it. His word says, vengeance is mine, said the Lord. And either God is honest or he's a liar. But none of God's words are false. God is not like man. He shall not lie. And so when we hold on to it, we unknowingly, we don't trust God. We don't believe God. We don't take God at his word and thinking that he will avenge it. And we have a problem because we feel like God he may show the person mercy. Like I think about when Jonah refused, he was disobedient and he didn't want to go to Nineveh because he knew that God was a compassionate and a merciful God. And he thought that God might just forgive them if they repented. And he might. And he will. But that is not up to us to decide on how God should or should not avenge it. It is not up to us as his creation to decide on how he, in his sovereignty, decides to judge or have justice and or compassion on this person. We want him to avenge it the way we want to do it. We want them to feel the pain that we felt. But it doesn't work like that. I want to read to you Ephesians 4:31 through 32. Is it 4? 4:31, 32. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgave you. That is a command. It is not optional. It is not based upon whether or not you feel like they deserve forgiveness. You are not the adjudicator. You are God's creation. Our job is to obey. And as well, And I know that sometimes you feel like holding unforgiveness feels like justice. It makes you feel better. But honestly, holding on to unforgiveness for years, for decades, for days and days on end, that is not making you feel better. In fact, and when I say this, I really mean this. What I'm going to say is that unforgiveness is heavy. Unforgiveness is like wearing, I would say, it's like wearing a 20-pound coat that is soaked in water. It's heavy on your spirit. It doesn't make you feel good. When a person walks into in a room and you tense up, when a person walks into your room and you do your best not to acknowledge that person, when you walk into a room and when they walk into a room or you are in the room with them, or you pretend like, I've heard someone say, oh, if somebody has hurt me or betrayed me, then, they're just dead to me. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. You think it does, but it really does not. In your soul, in your spirit, unforgiveness is a weight. It is a heavy burden that we are not meant to carry, because when you carry unforgiveness for that long, it eventually turns to anger, it turns to bitterness, it controls you, and you are allowing that person to control your life. Meanwhile, that person honestly is gone on about their life. They are not even maybe considering that they hurt you. And even if they have, it doesn't affect them. But it's affecting you. And you're holding it. And you're holding yourself hostage. I'm going to read you Colossians 3:13. Colossians 3:13. Okay. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long-suffering, patience, bearing with one another, and forgiving one another. And here's something else. If anyone has a complaint against another, even as Christ forgave you, so you must also do. And also, sometimes we're holding unforgiveness when we haven't even addressed the issue yet. Sometimes we're holding unforgiveness for a problem that the other person may not be aware of. And we're expecting the person to read our minds, to know what they did, to acknowledge what they did. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if they don't know how it is affecting you and you've never said anything, you're just waiting and hoping for them to speak up, then it will never be addressed, especially if it's someone who struggles with having hard conversations. And maybe you're the person who struggles having hard conversations, and this is the reason why you are dealing with unforgiveness. And so I know you're thinking, well, what if I address it and then they don't apologize? The point is not for them to apologize. The point is for you to acknowledge it and bring it to the person and potentially hope for reconciliation. Although reconciliation is not always possible. Reconciliation is definitely never possible if you never address the problem. Some people struggle with having hard conversations, and I know that I struggled for a long time pre-November 19, 2019, struggled with having hard conversations. And it was because I wasn't, I was unsure. It's like, if I say something, what's going to happen? Will they be mad? Will they still, I don't know, will it put a dent in the relationship? But you can never mend a relationship. You can never fix a problem that you won't face. Last thing, Matthew 6:15. So, and maybe you're wondering, well, how often do I forgive the person? What if they continue to repeat the same things over and over again? What if they repeat the same action? What if they continue to hurt me? Let me read you Matthew 6:15, and then I want to add a side note to this. Matthew 6:15. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive you your trespasses. So we forgive so that we may also be forgiven. It says, how many times should you forgive a person? I'm going to read Matthew 18:21. Matthew 18:21. How often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. So we are to forgive continuously. Forgiveness, and even after you have forgiven the person, I want to say forgiveness is not a one-time act, because there will be times when you will think about how the person hurt you. You will think about how they betrayed you. You will think about what they did, and you can, I know I have, feel anger or bitterness rising up over and over again. And I want to add this caveat, is that unlimited forgiveness does not mean unlimited access. I want to say that again. Unlimited forgiveness does not mean unlimited access. Because you forgive someone numerous times, infinitely, it does not mean that you are required to allow them unlimited access, intimate access to your life. There will be times when you may have to break off a friendship, break off a relationship, whatever that may be. But unlimited forgiveness does not mean that you continue to allow that person into your life to hurt you repeatedly. You might have to set some boundaries. And setting boundaries is also hard for people who struggle with having hard conversations. That was me. November 19, 2019. But boundaries are to help keep people and relationships healthy and safe. So that is so I hope that was helpful for you in some way. Again, when I say after I forgave, I feel so much lighter, and there are so many things that God has opened my spiritual eyes to, opened my spiritual heart to, opened in me that I did not have prior to forgiving people. So my prayer is that I hope that you trust God and that you learn to forgive, because forgiveness is a weight, a burden that God never meant for you to carry. He carried it on the cross. You don't have to worry about how he will avenge the person. Just know that if you trust God, he'll avenge it the way that he sees fit. You may not like it, but you don't have to. You don't have to like it. So you can free yourself from the hard heart, free yourself from the bitterness, so that you can honestly live a life of joy. And when I say live a life of joy, because there were days after that when I would just find myself just laughing, just out of the blue, when I felt like I shouldn't have been laughing. But God gave me joy, and it had nothing to do with my circumstances. So, if you enjoyed this video, if this helped you in any way, please share this. Please share this with someone who you know may be struggling with unforgiveness, and like and subscribe to be notified when I drop my next video, my other videos. And thank you for watching.